I'm grateful for my time in prison more than anything else in my life, bro, because that built strength of character and mental fortitude. And like, man, the darkest times of your life are the best times of your life if you can find a way to learn from it and to let it empower you.
Welcome to Self-Made and Sober. I'm your host, Andrew Lassis with selfmade-coaching.com. And in this podcast, it's my job to interview people who are not only crushing it in business, but have also struggled with addiction in the past and are in long-term recovery. Be sure to join our Facebook group where we help entrepreneurs grow and scale their business at facebook.com/groups/SMC Mastermind, like Self-Made Coaching Mastermind. I hope you enjoy the show, and be sure to subscribe and rate the show afterwards so you can get notified each Friday when we put out a new episode. And with me today is Zachary Babcock. And Zach, you have a very unique story as far as how you got sober, because you're not one of those 12-step, I started doing the steps and then my life completely changed. But yours is one where, and I'll let you tell your story, but it's a different path than most, and yet you're still coming out on top. It's a crazy story of triumph, and I'm so excited to get to hear it directly from you. So give us a background on, your addiction, and then, what happened and what brought you to where you're at now.
Right on, bro. Hey, I appreciate you having me on the show, man. It's cool to jam with you here today. But yeah, dude, I feel like we all can relate our stories, you know what I'm saying? Especially, people that's been through addiction or whatnot. But I grew up, dude, without a father figure. I always did things to fit in with the crowd, wanted to be accepted, and we all do to a degree, but I did it like over too much. And so I always had an addictive personality. I still do to this day. I just changed it into positive, channeled it into different resources and outlets or whatnot, as you would say. But dude, I started smoking weed and drinking and stuff when I was 9 years old, was in rehabs ever since then, was in and out of boys' homes and juveniles all throughout my teens. And then I went to prison when I was 19 for being a knucklehead. But this is a huge, huge story, but we'll probably dive more into it. I'm just kind of brushing over it. You know what I mean? But for me, though, I got out after doing 4 years flat, and then I went back to prison just 20 days before my twin sons were born. And that's because I got a DWI because I was out partying, because I was throwing my life away because I thought that I would never be able to get a job because I had just gotten fired after getting a promotion because I was a convicted felon. And for me, though, I woke up, though, dude, and that pain, it was like, dude, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going to be in and out of prison my entire life, and I'm going to miss out on my kids. And all I wanted growing up was to be the father that I didn't have, and now I'm missing out on that because of that. And so that pain was enough for me to shift my entire paradigm. It was, my desire to change became stronger, and my desire to stay the same at that point. And it's just been, ever since that moment, moved in a completely different direction of my life.
And so what would you say your paradigm was prior to that experience in your life versus what it turned into?
Yeah, dude, what it was, dude, is like that addictive personality that I still have to this day. I was in the victim mentality then, blaming everybody for everything, not taking responsibility. Now I take complete ownership of everything. That was like a huge shift. But also prior to that, like, it really, I didn't have, for me, this is my true belief. I feel like, at least I know this is for me, and I feel like it's different for every person, but I feel like what it comes down to, man, I didn't have a chief aim in life or anything that was driving me, not motivation, but any driving force in my life. Like, I didn't have anything to shoot for. And so I was just kind of going through the motions in life. And that led to, searching to do drugs and put myself in risky situations to express that. And then when I found that chief aim in life, hey, I got to get back in my son's life and be a father, like, it all changed. I had a purpose. I was moving with purpose. And then that's also grown and evolved into these creative outlets, what I'm doing now with my business. And like, I'm able to channel that addictive personality to what I'm doing now, kind of.
And so your whole mantra and the person that you are, it's about being the underdog, coming out on top and defying all odds. And I mean, where you're at now, it's like, well, it's easy for you to say that now, but like the version of you that was the underdog that wasn't winning, like what's going through your head? Are you optimistic at that time, or is it just...
Nah, yeah. So that's a really good question. And all right, so I've always known in the back of my mind that I was going to do some extraordinary shit, and I'm not saying that from an arrogant standpoint. That's just how I've always had that. However, there's been times in my life where I felt like there was no light at the end of the tunnel, and I felt like the world was crumbling around me. And there's been really tests in the time. Like, for an example, dude, when I was down in prison the first time, when I did the first 4 years, and I was down in the hole for a tattoo violation, I'm down there. The hole's the prison inside the prison. You can walk 3 steps. That's it. It's a small, dark, cold, lonely, depressing cell. You got very little to no human interaction. I'm down there for 2 weeks at the time, and I had to stay there for 2 months. And 2 weeks into it, I get called back to the captain's office, and they tell me that my mom had to break into the bathroom with a screwdriver and found my sister dead on the floor with a needle in her arm. And that, like, right there, dude, like, they gave me a 30-second phone call to my mom. We're bawling our eyes out. I'm getting ready to miss this funeral. My mom's mourning the death of her only daughter. I get put back into that cell. I get in the cell by myself for the next 3 days. I don't even eat. I just use the restroom. That's it. Crying my eyes out, thinking about all the mean things I ever said and did to my sister and the goodbye I never get to tell her. But dude, I woke up on that 3rd day and I was like, at that point in my life, like, dude, I didn't even know when I was coming home from prison. I didn't have a parole date. I didn't know when I was going to be a free man again. I'm 21 years old, and like, life is just not looking good. And I woke up though on that 3rd day, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what's the reason why I'm still here, but there's got to be a reason. What can I do to find happiness and peace right now? And it was that question, literally that question, that led to finding happiness and peace, the most peaceful I've ever been in my life, and probably the most adverse situation. But towards the end of that 2 months, so I had developed this routine out of the result of that question, because it got me to focus on the right things. And I found that peace of mind in a really, really dark time in my life. And the reason why is because, man, that question, man, when we get into those adverse situations, we'll ask why does this always got to happen to me? Blah, blah, blah. And that's focusing your mind on the wrong things. Like, anytime you hear a question, whether you're saying or somebody else, you immediately start searching for the answer. If I'm like, Andrew, what color is your shoes, bro? Everybody listening to this podcast, you and me are both thinking about, what's the color of his shoes? This is how our brains work. And so ask those empowering questions. I've done it plenty of times when I get in those adverse situations and I ask the disempowering, why is this always going to happen to me? But you got to ask those things the right thing to find the right answers.
So once you discovered the power of asking the right question, was that like an all of a sudden thing where you were like, hey, I asked the right question and now my life is getting better? Or was this sort of something you noticed like in retrospect, when you're asking the right questions, you're getting better answers?
Definitely retrospect. But because at that time I was 21 years old. It's 2010. I didn't know anything. I didn't even know what self-help or personal development was at that point in time in my life. But what the retrospect came in 2017, I read a book by Tony Robbins called Awaken the Giant Within. And in that book, he talks about, hey, the quality of questions you ask yourself determine the quality of your life. And he talks about whenever you hear a question, that's what it shifts your focus to. And if you ask it with intensity, you'll find those answers. And I'm like, dude, this dude's not a fraud. He's the real deal, because I literally did this. But yeah, that's where that came from.
And this episode is brought to you by Tony Robbins, notbeingafraud.com. He does some powerful stuff, man. Have you ever attended one of those events?
Yeah, dude. UPW Chicago 2017 or 2018. 2018. But yeah, dude, when people say he's a fraud, I'm like, dude, you're just a miserable, you're just looking for a way to hate on somebody, dude. Like, he makes, the money he makes from that personal development stuff is a drop in the bucket compared to what he makes through all of his other businesses, real estate, investing, all that stuff. Man, the dude doesn't need the money. He does it because he really does care about people, and his stuff is legit. All of his stuff that he teaches is legit.
Yeah, man. I saw him at an event where he was a keynote with like Gary Vee and a couple other big names. And this was like maybe 18 months ago. And I remember that day I woke up, it was like 4 a.m. and I was just like super tired. Like I was considering leaving early before he came on. And I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to see him. And then he comes out and he's like, hey guys, I usually go for 72 hours, but like, is it cool if we just go for 4? And I was like, what are you talking about? 4 hours? Like, give your speech, and then like I got to go home. And dude, he literally like lit up that entire room. There were thousands of like 6, 7, 8+ figure CEOs like in suits, like jumping, full of energy. Like 4 hours felt like 5 minutes, and I was just like, dang, this is you know. I think that you're right. People like to hate, oh, he's making money off these people's misery. Like self-development it's all just BS. But it's like, I mean, I know how I felt at the end of it. I came home, I told my wife, it's like, I'm a different person. And like, it wear off after like a day. But like in that moment though, I was just on fire. So I'm a fan for sure. So we're looking back on the questions that you're asking. You're getting the better answers. Tony Robbins agrees that when you ask better questions, you'll get better answers. So do you apply that? Is that just something that comes naturally to you, or do you consciously think of that when it happens in your life today?
I do it now today consciously. It wasn't until I read the book and was like, wow, I actually did that. And that's exactly what happened. And it's true. And then now, because there'll be times where, dude, anybody says like they don't have bad days and they don't get pissed off, you're a damn liar. We're all human beings, bro. You know what I'm saying? And it's just impossible not to feel those feelings and not to have dark thoughts, emotions, and desires. So there's going to be days where I'm having a bad day, everything's going wrong, and it's just like frustrating, right? And I'm like, man, why the? And then I got to catch myself, like, nah, that's not. And then ask myself that. And sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes I don't even want to do it. I'm like, no, fuck that. I just want to be mad right now, But I find a way to bring myself back and to be in a resourceful state versus just making things worse than what they already are.
So are you one of the people that are really about like, what can I do in this moment, as opposed to like, what's going to happen, or dwelling on the past? Like, what's kind of your take on like what's happening in your life? Is it kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot in the future? What's that look like?
So it's like, I'm all about the moment, dominating the moment, because that's all we really have, But my mind always wants to go to the future. It always wants to think like, it's always like strategically, okay, we want to get this. So how are we going to get that? You know what I'm saying? But it's, I'm always thinking about visualizing what I want, also visualizing how my life will be if I don't do the things I need to do, and how I'm going to be filled with regret if I don't. I like to use both the positive and negative visualization, because I actually find more power in visualizing negative things than I do positive. Because it gets me, the pain gets me to spur the action that needed to prevent. But yeah, man, it's I'm always dominating. What's the next thing I can do to get me one step closer to the goal? It's always that thought that is dominating my mind, but I'm always thinking about the future. So it's kind of hard. Sometimes it's hard for me to stay present, which is ultimately the best way to be. If you could calm your mind. And I struggle so much with meditation, even though I do it. It's like, I'm always like, but it's something that it's hard for me to master.
Yeah, meditation's one of those things that's like, everyone who does it is like, it's the best thing in the world. And then people will like try it for a second and it's like, that worked really well. And then it's like, I hate this though, but I like it. But my brain is just always racing. And I mean, I've found benefits with just even a couple minutes of like a guided meditation, something, very low level. Like I'm not the guy sitting there I had a guest once who like, he does like meditation retreats. And I believe he said it was like is like 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night. And then he'll just do it like 5-minute gaps here and there each day, like, you know, when he catches a break. And I just remember thinking like, dude, if I could meditate for like a combined 1 hour every day, I know that it would make me probably like a lot more even and mellow and less like extreme, especially when there's times when I feel like things are bad. But what I've come to realize is like the bad is just my interpretation of it, and everything is just how we give the context to it. You know, somebody punches a hole in the wall, you could be like, man, that person's mad. But then at the same time, it's like, what was the context? And it was like, that person was told if he punched a hole in the wall, he'd get $10 million. And then he did it. And it's like, well, that's not trauma. That's a great thing that just happened. So it's all, you know, and this is, you know, just Andrew throwing his philosophy on life. But I think a lot of things, it comes down more so to not so much good or bad, but more so just preference, because so many events just by themselves, they're not necessarily a good or bad. Like I got a DUI and then I got sober. So like, is that DUI a bad thing or a good thing? Like I wouldn't recommend getting a DUI, but I know I wouldn't have found recovery without it. So which is it? You know, it's how I choose to look at the situation. You asked me the day it happened. I'm pretty confident I was telling everybody about the bad day that I had, the bad night. You know, you going to prison, like that's not something that most people would say, find the silver lining in it. Yet you've managed to come out on top. So,
bro, like if anything, like, dude, I wouldn't take back none of the, dude, I'm grateful for my time in prison more than anything else in my life, bro, because that built strength of character and mental fortitude. And like, man, the darkest times of your life are the best times of your life if you can find a way to learn from it and to let it empower you. If you're just going to play the victim mentality, oh, why is this going to happen to me, and blame everybody else and mope in your sorrows, then yeah, you're going to have a really rough time and you're going to suffer as a result. But if you could find that, dude, the days that break you are literally the days that make you, flat out.
That's such a great quote. That'll be like,
I love that quote.
The days that break you are the days that make you. I mean, you should put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, dude.
Sell it at a Tony Robbins event.
I can't remember where I seen it first, but I seen that quote and I was like, yes, because it resonated with me. I'm like, it's true. It really is. It's the you grow from pain. You grow from adversity. You grow. I mean, that's why this is a little bit down a rabbit hole, but that's why with people saying, oh, they're just winning because they're privileged, or they look here, man, underprivileged is the privilege. Dude, you put me heads up versus anybody that's been spoon-fed and had everything given to them their whole entire life. I'm going to dominate them heads up every single time because I'm closer to reality and because I've felt and experienced pain and because I'm hungrier. And I'm going to outwork them every single time. And that's the case with anybody that's underdog or underprivileged or doesn't have all the resources, dude. You got to understand that is literally, I would take that any day than being handed everything, flat out, dude.
I'm so on board with that. That's one of like I've got a 9-month-old, and like one of the fears that I have is that like he'll grow up just being like entitled. It's like, well, because Andrew's my dad, like I'm entitled to live in this nice house. Like I'm entitled to like have a car. I'm entitled to have food and like eat dinner out and stuff like that. And like, I don't want him to grow up to be the weak, entitled person that's just like, well, I was born a white male in 2019 in an upper class house, so therefore I've got it made in the shade. It's like, you didn't do anything. All you did was get lucky at birth. But there's people that just think that that's just, I'm entitled to that. And because I'm entitled, just give it to me. And people don't feel like they have to work for it. And what you're saying, people are like, oh man, like that person's got it so easy. Like having the leg up is one thing, But like you said, man, when someone is scrappy and is willing to go the extra mile, you put them head to head. It's like a human versus a lion. Like, it's great that maybe you're smarter than it, but you put you two alone in a room, and guess who's coming out alive?
Yeah, the lion. Exactly, dude. And so it's like both sides there. The oppress. Dude, that if you have that kind of mentality, that victim mentality, guess what? You're gonna be a slave to that your whole entire you have no power blaming other things of reasons why you can't have what you want. Dude, I'm sorry, I have no empathy for a victim mindset person. I literally, dude, let's be for real here. You like are they you put me up against any black person in the world that doesn't have a convicted record, and we go apply for some jobs, they're getting the job before me 100% of the time, period. All right. And I was able to take that position that I put myself in below ground zero and still built a 6-figure plus business because I was hungry for it. So there's no excuse for anybody why you can't do certain things. And then on the flip side of that, the privileged guy that does have that was born into it. Now, it's not necessarily his fault because he can't help it from being born into somebody that was a go-getter and went out and made something of their life. But that person, though, that grows up that way and doesn't have that fight and that hunger and was just given to him everything, you put him up against that underprivileged person, whether it was me or whether it's some poor black kid that came from a bad community, whatever, that person, me or that black kid, whatever, whoever it is going to dominate every single time, especially in the long run. And so you gotta, I feel like I'm the same way, dude. Cause like I'm starting to make money in my business and stuff, and I got kids. I don't give them shit, dude. Like I take them. We go all the time. Like for Mother's Day, we went and bought Mother's Day cards, $1 of them, at the dollar store, and bought a bunch of them, and then go and sell them for $2 to $3 door to door before Mother's Day. Hey, we're gonna save you a trip from the store and make, in case you forgot to get a Mother's Day card or whatever, stuff like that all the time. It's teaching them how to be resourceful and how to go out and hustle and make something of their life,
That's such a great idea. Like, if you were in my neighborhood, like, I should just give you my list of things that I need to remember, like birthdays and just, just like Amazon Prime. Remember to get your wife flowers. It's been 2 months. Like,
yeah. Well, yeah, if you live close to us, man, my kids won't let you forget about it. That's for sure.
That's awesome. So you're teaching your kids, though, here's the value of hard work. Here's the result of doing that hard work. And, your whole platform is built on, like, just because you're down and out doesn't mean that you can be the victim. So was there anything other than, the obvious part is, like, your story is the underdog story and you can empathize with people who are going through it. But is there any other reasons other than, like, the obvious one why you chose, like, the empowerment and the underdog movement as your platform?
Yeah, man. From a business standpoint, it was like, man, anytime I tried to collaborate with any entrepreneur, nobody took me seriously. I was just that ex-convict turned entrepreneur afterthought that nobody gave the time of day to. And so I was pissed because I was, people were holding me in that box. And I understand it. I get it, man. That's the judgment that was made. And anybody says that they don't judge people, that's a lie. We all judge people. Every single person judges people. It's impossible not to. It's how we're literally hardwired in our brain, is to immediately form an opinion of anything or any person as soon as we see them. So those snap judgments, but it's whether you hold on to that judgment or not. But that's another rabbit hole. But long story short, I was pissed off, bro. And for selfish reasons, first and foremost, because you got to fill up your cup before you fill up any other cup. That's just my firm belief. But I started the Underdog Empowerment podcast, and also to help other underdog entrepreneurs. But it was really, like, everything about it was strategic in that standpoint. But it was really a platform for myself to break through that mold and also document everything that I'm learning in the process to help other people along with me. And that's what it started off as. And it's grown and evolved in some more things since then. Yeah, man.
And you recently had, I believe his name is Mitch Russo, and he's one of the, correct me if I'm wrong, he, like, built the, like, Tony Robbins, like, coaching platform. And that's just coincidental. I just happen to recall seeing his name. Is that right?
Yeah, he partnered with Tony Robbins on quite a few things, man. And he has a crazy story. He was on heroin real bad and in high school and stuff, and his rock bands or whatever, and overcame that as well.
That's really cool, man. So now that you're past, that hitting the 6-figure mark, that's always like that was kind of where I felt like you know what? Like, this is actually working. So like, if we're going to dissect, kind of how you look at things. So that's how you got from where you started to where you're at now. And congratulations, because most people can't even dream of getting that when they become entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, starting their own business. I know for myself, I was hoping to hit like 30 grand was like my goal. So I sold myself like super short, and I'm glad the universe had different plans. But
Right.
so what's going through your head to get from 6 figures to 7 figures, 10x, where the old goal was?
Yeah, man. So for me, I'm glad that I was humble, or I hate the word humble. I'm glad that I was not arrogant and understand the reason why I would hate the word humble. If you just Google it just the way it's worded, I'm like, I don't resonate with that. But I am very respectful and also I need to find another word for humble, like something where it's like respectful and not thinking that you're arrogant or whatever, but not saying that you're like weak, because that's what humble saying is, like you're weak. But anyways, that was
Teachable?
yeah. So I'm glad though that I understood and not cocky thinking that I know everything, because I don't. And there's so much stuff that I don't know. And dude, I'm just getting started. Like, dude, literally, and I feel like that's for anybody. But there's always, you don't know what you don't know, and there's always so much that you don't know. But anyways, for me, I'm the visionary. I'm the creative. I'm the marketing guy. I love to get the ideas and the leading of the vision and stuff. But systems and operations and the integrator, oh my God, I want to bash my face into a brick wall trying to do that stuff. But it's vitally important for any business is to have rock solid systems and operations and have that integrator in place. So right now I just teamed up with a killer integrator, Lee Collins. He's just amazing. But that way he can get all the efficiency and effectiveness of our business. The 1% compounds the other or whatnot rocking, and I could just go on the track and run, you know what I mean, and do my thing, and so that's what we're working on right now, dialing that in. We just started working together, and also be working on finance, because for me, dude, like, to give an example, dude, especially us entrepreneurs that have the addictive personality that, dude, and this is true for pretty much any human being, but like you make more money and you start spending more money. And for us addictive entrepreneurs, we like to bet on ourselves, right? And so you make that money and then you start investing in all these other things, and you're like, at the end of the month, like, well, damn, I made $30,000 this month. When I'm used to, before I was only making, $1,000 or $2,000 a month for this business, but I don't have any money left over. Where did it all go? And so, finance is another thing that I'm teaming up with Dan Nicholson and separating my buckets and getting that dialed in. So I have, okay, this is for salary. Okay, this is for operations. Okay, this is for investing. We got the reserves built up in these. Okay, now we can make this investment. Make better decisions that way.
Yeah, man. Putting money in different buckets or whatever your system is, that's such a huge thing, because you're absolutely right, man. Like, I look at my life 7 years ago, and like I was making like 25 grand as like a manager at a Carrabba's, and like I was fine. Like, I was getting by, and it's like the percentage of what was left over. Like, I was just fortunate enough to grow up, like, my mom's a small business investor, my dad's a stockbroker, so like I've had this stuff drilled down my throat since I was like born, and a financial planning degree. So like, it's been drilled down my throat so much. But you're absolutely right, man. Like, when things are good, then it's like, hey, you know what? Like, if we made all this money, I should buy like expensive lunch every single day for everybody who works for me. And I should buy I should buy cars for all my customers too, because we had a great month. And then it's like, why did I lose all my money? It's like, we had a great sales. It's like, yeah, it's not about how much you bring in. It's more about how much you get to keep.
Yeah.
Making money, it's not easy. Don't get me wrong, but making
it's
money
not hard once you learn how to do it either.
Right. Well, and then, it's kind of like that saying, like, nothing's going to draw a crowd like a crowd. So like once you start getting successful, then people start recognizing you as somebody who's successful, and the things that come alongside it, people will reach out to me for like collaborations. People will reach out to me for different opportunities, and like 9 out of 10, not the right fit for me, or the person who the idea came from, they're kind of just looking for like a quick win on like my behalf. And like, I get it, it's part of the game, but like to get enough wins under your belt, like you've got to put in the work, you've got to grind it out. And you can be making all the money in the world, but if you're not keeping that money, then it doesn't matter. I'd rather work in a company that's making like $1 million a month, and I'm only keeping like 3%, right? To 30 grand. I'd rather only keep 3% of $1 million versus 100% of 1,000 and have to do all the garbage that comes along with it. Because like once you're making more, even though your expenses go up, like you can find places to just shave out. And that's one of the big things that I've taken away from like entrepreneurship and running a business is like every month I look through all my expenses and I ask myself, is this something that needs to be here? And I look at the budgets, I look at the profit and loss statements, because those things are really important. But like when things are fine and you're making money, it's like I don't need to look at that. I'm making money. But then like when things are bad, it's like, I should have looked at this back when I was making money.
Yeah. Like, yeah, if I'd have sorted this out then, I'd have an extra, couple grand right now.
Yeah. And then you get blindsided by taxes, and it's like, damn, I would have had another house if the IRS didn't exist.
Yeah.
But Zach, it's been awesome having you on the show, man. And I want to be respectful of your time, but where can people find out more about you and the podcast?
Yeah, man, it definitely is a podcast, and you guys should definitely come over there and check out me and Andrew's interview on my show, which will be out really soon as well. But that's Underdog Empowerment. It's pretty much any podcast that you listen, any podcast platform that you listen to podcasts to. But to make it really simple for you guys, you can just go to underdogempowerment.com. And right there on the front page, there's a little button that says subscribe, and you could subscribe to whatever platform you enjoy, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, whichever. Hope to see you guys over there. Andrew, thanks for having me on, man. It's been a blast.
Awesome, Zach. Yeah, and looking forward to your show, man. And take care.
Right on.
Thank you so much for listening to Self-Made and Sober. Be sure to join our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/SMC Mastermind, like Self-Made Coaching Mastermind. I hope you enjoyed this show, and be sure to subscribe and rate the show so you can get notified each Friday when we put out a new episode.